The Mandalorian, Episode 7, The Reckoning. So, this episode, of course, is the penultimate episode of the season. It is the first part of basically, it's a two-part finale, and it was a really good episode. We have the Mandalorian going through, he's rounding up the two people he can trust, pretty much. So, he gets the message from Carl Weathers' character. It's like, hey, if you come back, you bring the kid, you can give us the kid, you'll be free of all your debts, everything will be squashed, you're good to go. Obviously, there's no reason to trust that, so I was like, hey, I'm gonna go get the few people that I can trust. He goes and gets Cara Dune from Sanctuary. She doesn't want to in at first, and he goes there and it's like, it's the Empire, and it's like, oh, well, why didn't you say that? So she's like, of course I'm in. So he gives her, he goes to the Udnot. He's able to convince him to be like, hey, can you come help us out and watch the kid? And he's like, yeah, I'll do it. We find out that the IG droid IG-11 was actually brought along as well, and actually pretty much revived because he was taken down. So the Ugnaught actually revives him. Quill is his name. So Quill actually brings him back. He reprograms him. We see the little montage where he's like learning how to pretty much do everything. Like he's learning how to pour tea without like crushing everything. He teaches them like, hey, like scoot the bugs out of the way. Don't just crush the bugs and stuff like that. So he scoots the bug out of the way before he drops the box. Little stuff like that. So I was like, okay, he learns how to actually pour food because he was just pouring it all on the ground the first time. So I was like, okay, we get the little thing there. And of course, the Mandalorian hates droids. He hates droids. And it's like, I specifically hate that droid. But we've got like the glimpses of the flashbacks. And even in the first episode, we knew he hated droids to begin with. He specifies that droid because, of course, it is meant to kill. So it does have like a double meaning for him to hate that very specific droid because he was the one that had to stop it from killing Baby Yoda. So he's like, basically in his head it was kind of like, it doesn't matter if you reprogram it, it's meant to kill. But it's reprogrammed. Like they didn't go with like the whole Ghost in the Machine type stuff where it's like is it gonna come alive and it's gonna remember what it is? Like no, it's a robot. It's been reprogrammed. It's like back the f up. It's a service droid now. So that was pretty cool. They do reference the fact that it can protect though. It's like he's meant to protect, and they kind of reference that a little bit when they're in the ship and they have like a bit of an argument, and the IG kind of walks a little bit closer and it's like like it's something's about to happen here. Like it is meant to protect Quill, but it's not that intense anymore. So I was like, all right. We'll go back to the planet. Everything's cool. We have a force choke moment from Baby Yoda because they're doing the arm wrestling. He didn't realize what was going on, so he ends up force choking Cara Dune. I was like, okay, that's an interesting little moment there. And I love where she was like, that's not okay. Like, that's not a cool thing to have happen. But I love that moment and like realize like, oh crap. And he's like, like stop, we're friends. And then Quill kind of goes through the explanation like the force is this weird thing now. Like it used to be just it's like Jedi and Force and stuff like that, but it's also a galaxy. It's an entire galaxy. So it's been years since that happened. It's been like 30 years or so since the Clone Wars. And it's just like it's not the same. It's not like the Jedi are all over the place anymore. Obviously, Order 66 hit, a lot of people vanished, and so it's like it's kind of faded out of out of relevance. And even then it wasn't like the most known thing because obviously it's an entire galaxy. It's multiple galaxies really. So it's like, all right, it's different. Like it's faded away. It's like I've heard rumors of this. Like people kind of know it, but so many people have been killed off from the Jedi Order. Obviously, the Empire kind of wants to squash all of that stuff. So it's like almost suppression of history as well. So it's like I've heard stories of this, and this power is like stuff like that. Like it makes sense why you survive that attack with the creature and stuff. It's like it makes sense now. Having seen that, I understand fully that story that you told me. So I was like, okay, go through it. It's kind of the normal thing. Anyone who knows about it only knows a little bit because it's not like super well known anymore. But of course, to get to the planet, they meet Carl Weathers' character. He's got two guards with him. I heard that one of the guards is wearing something that was introduced in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, like costume wise. So I thought that was pretty cool. I found that out recently. So I was like, all right, they go through the motions. Like, yep, we're gonna go. You give us, give the dude the kid. We'll kill him, and then you get the kid. Everything will be good. I just want him out of my town. Everything's fine. So they're going through. They have a really cool moment at night where it's like they're eating food and stuff, and then I don't know what the creatures are. They just swing in, steal the food. They steal like two of the the thing I forgot, the blurgs, they still, like, I think one of the blurgs they steal, the other one they actually rescue, but they're just caught. I thought it was an amazing scene. Like, I love the fact that it was foggy, so you couldn't see much, but like the haze of like the lasers going off, you could see like blasting as they went out into the darkness, and then they're just swooping in trying to get people, and they're like scratching them up and stuff. I think one of the people got killed, the other guy lived. I think he had 3 people, so yeah, one of the people got killed and 2 of them lived, and one of the blurgs got taken as well. So it was just a chaotic little moment. They're just shooting out into the wild, like, you know, they're just like Gatling gun going off, and just blaster bullets just firing left and right. And it's like, what the heck? And so, you know, everything settles down, and that's when we finally get to see Baby Yoda do the Force Heal, which he was trying to do. I want to say it was in episode 2 or 3. I can't remember exactly when we got that scene. I believe it was episode 2. And so I figured that was what was going to happen. And I was like, because it seemed like he was trying to heal the Mandalorian. And I'm like, if that's true, that's something we'd never seen before. And it hadn't been. And we get to see a new Force power, and it's the Force Heal. And that was interesting. I was like, holy crap, you know, it's a new ability that we hadn't seen before. So that I thought was pretty cool. I guess depending on some elements, you might like that. You might not like it. Depends, I guess. There's some more recent stuff as well with the Force Heal that people aren't too happy with. But in terms of the Mandalorian, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I was fine with it. I was like, oh, that's very interesting. Like, this kid is very powerful in the Force. Of course, Yoda species, that's kind of their thing. So that was a cool little moment. And I love the part where he was like, you know, he's going to eat me. Like, he's going to eat me. And then he just heals him. I was like, oh, would you look at that? So that was a crazy moment. Like, holy crap. And so, excuse me. So because of that, Carl Weathers' character was like, oh, well, I kind of can't let the Empire get this kid now. So he ends up killing the 2 bodyguards. It was like, look, the deal was we were actually going to kill you and then, you know, just take the kid. But after what happened last night, I can't let the Empire get them. Like, that's just, it's crazy. I can't let that happen. So it was like, all right, I'm on your side. We'll have Quill take the kid back. We'll go in. We'll, you know, they take the carriages, like, you know, their decoy. So they go in. It's like, all right. They did it through like the whole episode too. It was like, there should be like 4 or 5. And, you know, they go through the town, 4 or 5 stormtroopers. I was like, well, I said with him, there's like 4 or 5. Obviously, there's a bit more here. And then they get there, and it's like, you said 4 or 5, because they bring in like 4 or 5 more stormtroopers. Like, well, there's significant. There's a few more now. And so they just kept going through it. Like, they just more and more stormtroopers. They kept getting surrounded as the episode went on. So as they get there, it's like, you know, here's the carriage. Here's what's happening. You know, we'll do the deal. And then, right as they're about to, you know, basically get busted because he's going to open up the cradle, that's when a phone call comes in. And so we have this brand new guy show up, and it's like, all right, well, what the F's going on here? So random phone call comes in. It's like, do you have the kid? It's like, yes, we have the kid. It's like, you should probably check again. And so he's about to turn around, and then he just gets killed. Like, the client is murdered, and they just kill all the stormtroopers inside. They just light up the whole cantina. And then we see a TIE fighter come in, and then it lands. Super cool, by the way. Like, I love that it landed and, like, the wings fold in and stuff. I don't think they've ever actually shown that before. So that was super cool. And then, you know, this new character gets out, and it's like, well, what the F is happening here? Boatload of stormtroopers. Once again, it's like 5 stormtroopers, huh? So tons of stormtroopers come in. Apparently, some of the stormtroopers come in on like this super old Star Wars toy that was not popular at all, and it was just like a transport to put toys in. Obviously, it's a much older one that never got famous. So they brought that back in as an actual thing that was just a transport for stormtroopers, and they just pop out like lockers. So that was funny when I found out that was even a thing. I was like, oh, that's cool. Just another cool deep cut reference for the show. But they're just surrounded. They have the Death Troopers were the first ones to show up, so they're all black with their weapons and stuff. So that was super awesome. I love the design of the Death Troopers. I think they look fantastic. So that was pretty cool. And then, of course, I don't want to say his name for anyone who's watching this. If you're watching my reviews as you watch the show, I know the character. So I'm trying not to like say the character's name. But this new guy, he pops in. And so it's like, you know, you have something that I want. And so at this point, the Mandalorian's already called Quill. Like, hey, get to the ship, seal it down, you know, like no one will be able to get in. And so we have the stormtroopers who were able to like intercept that call. So they take off on their speeder bikes. Once again, my favorite vehicles in all of Star Wars. And they must have been moving at lightning speed, because even in the essence of the series, I was like, they're so far away. Like, the ship was so insanely far away that they literally landed during the day. They stopped overnight and then they kept going during the day again. And I was like, how would they get out there so fast on those speeder bikes? It didn't make any sense. Obviously, they got there at the end of the night, because even Quill was basically at the ship by the time he got back. So yes, he wasn't like that far. But even on this creature, I was like, man, are the speeder bikes really so insanely fast that they got that far out? Because by the time they split up, they're still, I would say they're still a few miles away from the actual city, because they're still looking down on it, and it's like, it seemed like it was a decent distance to me. And I was like, man, so he had taken off. That would have to be like real time wise. I mean, hey, even in the span of the show, that was probably like a 5 to 10 minute span from the time he took the kid to the time they actually intercepted that call. It was like, hey, like, get the kid to the ship. So if that was for us, like almost 5 to 10 minutes, that would have been like 30 minutes or more for them. And I'm like, he still wasn't at the ship yet, even though clearly he was kind of strolling along because things weren't chaotic yet. So even with him going slower, I mean, the speeder bikes, I was just like, dang. But when you think about it, I mean, they do go that fast. Like when you do like Return of the Jedi, they go like 100 miles an hour. So it does kind of make sense. So it was just crazy. Like, when I was thinking about it, I was like, man, that seems so wild that they could even possibly get there. But and I think about it, which I wouldn't know this if I just watched a thing on Disney Plus where they talked about like the story of making the original trilogy, and they talked about how they filmed the speeder bike segment. It was like 1 frame per second. So when they did it at 24 frames per second, it was basically 100 miles per hour. Because he was walking at like 5 miles per hour, so it came out to like 100 miles per hour. So technically, speeder bikes go about 100 miles per hour. If you do it like at the max, they can go up to or probably beyond 100 miles per hour. So it does kind of make sense. But when I was watching it, because I didn't think about how fast they really go, I was just like, how could they possibly catch up to him? But I guess doing the math, it does make sense. But when I was watching, I was like, it seems so crazy to me that they could possibly have caught up to him. And it was getting intense, because I was like, all right, they're shooting out there. They're on these speeder bikes. He's on the blurg. They're trapped. And this dude's just like, in a few minutes, I'm going to have what I want, and it won't matter. And it's just like crazy. And it's like, Quill, come in. And, of course, he's not responding after that because he's like in a rush to get there. And they show the speeder bikes. They're getting closer and closer. And then they have that final call where it's like, Quill, come in, and they don't show him. All you see is Baby Yoda on the ground. The stormtrooper scoops him up, and then, it's just, you just hear the Mandalorian screaming, like, Quill, like, come in. And they just kind of pan back, and it's just Quill dead on the ground. Like, his blurg is dead. He's dead. And smoke is coming off of him. And that's just how they end it, going into the season finale. And it was just like, man, they captured Baby Yoda. The crew is just trapped inside this cantina. We got this brand new dude coming down in a freaking TIE fighter. Just an absolute platoon of stormtroopers coming in, Death Troopers, regular stormtroopers coming in. It's just crazy. Like they're surrounded, and it's just chaos going into the finale. But it was an amazing episode. I personally still think the finale just blew it, out of the water. Like, this would be great to just watch both episodes back to back. That would be insane. So for anyone who's able to do that, you're very fortunate, because just together, like even separate, they're amazing episodes, but together, it's just like, whew, this is really good. So I loved it for sure. Of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about this penultimate episode of the season, so please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it. If you haven't already seen the finale, I would love to know your thoughts on the new character, or in general, I would love to know your thoughts on the guy coming down on the TIE Fighter. I really try to refrain from saying his name this whole review, but we'd love to know your thoughts on his character and just the craziness that took place in this episode. Quill unfortunately dying. Do you believe he's dead? Do you think that maybe he can come back? I would say he's dead. Like, I think this is the type of show that doesn't mess around with that sort of element. I think especially when you do a scene like that, I think no matter the show, unless you specifically know, like, oh, characters come back and die all the time, that sort of scene, especially for an ending scene, I don't think any show would ever come back from that and be like, nope, he was totally fine the whole time. I would say, like, once you see that and he's not moving and he's literally like smoking, I'm like, that unfortunately that character's gone. But we'll love to know your thoughts on it. Just in general, what you thought about it, what your hopes are and speculations for the season finale are as well. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.